Good night, good night, good night. Welcome to the Fatherhood Think Tank. I'm your host, curator of the Fatherhood Think Tank, Dr. Ron. We have a very interesting conversation tonight. If you have already seen the placard, the topic is absence isn't his choice. Absent isn't his choice, and that's going to lead into a lot of different things. I think tonight, as we carry this conversation, I just want to say hello to the people who are watching and on Facebook. Good night, gentlemen. Welcome. You can ask any questions, any comments, and if you feel comfortable, let me know. I send you the link to come into the room. The room is wide open for as many fathers to come and have this conversation at any time. Let me introduce the one father who's here tonight. My ride or die. If they take the end of the world, he'll probably come on a little white horse and come rescue me. Brother Lightborn.
Hey, what's up, fam? Good afternoon, gentlemen and think tank community. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of 7 young adults, 3 young ladies, 4 young men, granddaughter who recently had a birthday. Love you, baby girl, and a grandson. And so it's always a pleasure to be here.
Right. So Lightborn, I know it looks like it might be a 2-man. Well, I'm sure other people will come soon. Once we go live, they will come and they'll find a way here. But see, just like that, it's like, and we get another, and there is another. Oh, here's one man that I'm glad.
What's up, fellas?
Hey,
What's up, fam?
good night, welcome.
I'm glad to see y'all faces, man. My name Vincent.
And you are a father of how many? And
I'm a father. I'm a father of 2, but I raised 4.
right, so just say you're a father of 4, Vincent.
Father of 4. Yeah.
One thing I say is, and Lightborn probably will speak to this more than anything else. Don't let at any point, if you're in their life, you raise them. As a teacher,
Yeah, you
every
right about that.
kid that comes across I'm raising them. I spend 8 hours with them a day. And I teach them not just the academics, I teach them everything. So I think that's a big part. Welcome, my brothers. Good to see you. So as I was just saying to people, hey, like, share, and subscribe. And as I normally like to do, I'm just going to speak to the sponsors of 1 minute. We have our main sponsor, Zeta Chi, chapter of Omega Psi Phi, Fort Lauderdale chapter, Zeta Chi, founded in 1954, chartered. And so they have been here from the beginning, and we always want to keep them as a part. We also have our main sponsor, JAG Attorney at Law, Miami-Dade, Broward, West Palm Beach. Definitely, if you're looking for a lawyer in that area, you can just reach out to JAG Attorney at Law. That's Attorney Johnny A. Gaspar Esquire. J.Gaspar at jag1law.com, or you can hit him on the phone number 305-827-8087. And that's where he is at. Definitely our key sponsor of the Fatherhood Think Tank. Definitely we have another brother coming on. Let's get these brothers in here. Let them introduce themselves. Good night, Brother Vaughn. How are you?
Good evening, brothers. How y'all doing?
All right.
Good.
Wonderful. Log in real quick.
And Vaughn, you just want to introduce yourself.
All right, Brother Vaughn Howard, 2 children, married for 18 years, 2 high school children. One is a junior, one is a senior. I'm sorry, a junior and a sophomore. Um, Here to be a part of the Fatherhood Think Tank, so we can have some real conversations with real men.
All right, welcome tonight, Vaughn. We're glad to have you on. So tonight, as I was saying, at this point, we can kind of get this conversation going. We got enough for a 2-man, 2-on-2. It's gonna had to be a 1-on-1, me and Lightborn throwing the ball back and forth in the hoop. But I think since we got us two more members, we can really get into a squad. We can really get into some squad action. So let's get that plan going. Gentlemen, I throw the question out to you, and I know that this, at some point for the married fathers who have been with, like Vaughn, this might not be so much of something you even think about, but I know myself. I don't know how much we've thought about like the absent is not really being our choice as a father. The absence, and I'm going to say this because I think that this is such a general topic. The absence doesn't have to be the absence of not being in the home or being with the child. The absence can, also be in some other places.
No, and when you send me the invite, I kind of rebrand your title or the topic rather. I'm always trying to rebrand your topic. But and I rebranded it absent father versus extracted father. You see the difference? Mm-hmm. And so what you explained in there, I'm like, that's not an absent father, that's an extracted father. Now, what does that mean? You know what the word extract means? It means just basically taken away. And so when you have different scenarios like divorce, you can be an extracted father when you guys are going through the process of divorce. That depends on how messy it may be or traumatic or what the level of crises. Or you can have an issue where you're going through a bout of child custody and child support. That can be an extracted father because, again, by law, if you're not married to that the mother of your child, then you'd have the established rights just to have that child be identified as your child, even though there's a contradicting law that says, you can be liable or you're connected to this child financially, but not biologically. Or because, better yet, because you are biologically connected to this child, then it comes automatically with financial obligations and not ethical one. And so to be extracted, most of the time, most guys are extracted from their children by way of laws as opposed to love. And so love is not the issue. It's not you don't love your child. You understand? It's the laws that actually extract us from our children. And so that's something that we'd have to check on both ends, because I think we have some self-reflection we have to do. And when it comes to dealing with the opposite sex and the mother of our children. So I think we'd have to learn how to finesse that situation. And then at the same time, we have to learn how to navigate the court system. You understand? I don't think it's too unfair. I think that the child support laws and the parental laws, in effect, it's a cause and effect history. And so, I understand both sides of it now, especially being married now, because when I was single, I only had one type of investment, and that's being a single father or a single man who was a father. But when I became a married man to a woman who already had children, you understand, or who had her, for the lack of a better term, baby daddies, then I started to understand the importance of input and the frequency. And unfortunately, in her particular situation, I just assumed every man was doing what I was doing, and that was not the truth. And so I started to understand the reason for the laws because I think it was a rude awakening for me to experience her conflict, right, as her husband. So now we had a shared, for the lack, well, not lack of better term, for the topic, we had a shared experience of what it means to be an absent father. So we had a shared experience in the absent father component versus the extracted. And I had for myself, I was an extracted father because I didn't have a problem with engaging with my children and being there exactly when I said I was going to be there, and being consistent. We had a conflict with only one of my kids at that particular time. Again, he had a great stepfather, but I think me and his mother had some unresolved issues. And so, of course, the guy, which is her husband, I mean, he took the right road. Again, I could never understand because I wasn't married. And now that I'm married, now I understand his point of view. You're talking about more than 20 years, 25 years removed later. And so, yeah, it is a big difference between being an absent father and an extracted father. And I think, again, the difference between the two is one removes you by love, not removes you by love, but it's the laws that remove the love that you could be to that particular child at that particular time.
Can I ask a question on this? And I'm quite sure I'm about to throw a monkey wrench in probably the whole conversation when I ask this. But is this, just as a inquiry, is this topic self-reflective as well?
Well, I think that's a great. I think that in all actuality, Ron, I think that it is all encompassed. It's not.
Okay.
It's not as simple as one of these comments, because I think that my approach to it is based probably from my own reflection of my own situation, right? So the reason why I utilize and look at this topic in that, but the reason why it's kind of scheduled that way, because the situation can be very general. It can be
Right.
I have not spent the time I really need to spend the time with my children, not because of anything between me and their mother, not between anything, maybe just because of my job. And
Right.
and trying the pressures of even some life things that are going on that puts me in that capability. So I don't think we're not here. And again, this is the great thing about the think tank. We're not here to take one point and be like, we've got this flag. No, I think that every father can look at this topic and present it in all the different ways that it manifests itself inside them personally, and bring it to the table for us all to hear together.
And the only reason why I asked that specifically is because I think I want to add another layer to it, as it relates to.
Don't think, Vaughn. You don't got to think. You just put it on there. Just pour it in there, Doc. Pour it in there.
Like I said, so you have the give it to me again, Lightborn. I'm gonna jump right in afterwards.
Oh, you mean the absent father versus the extracted father?
Right, absent versus extracted. But I will also say the non-engaged father, and I say that because you have some fathers who or want to engage in their how can I say their desires versus the full desires of the child. So that's why I would say non-engaged as well. I want to put that caveat in there also, because you got a bunch of daddies that'll go to Little League football game, fill out a park on the Saturday, but we need to go check out Man Graves up in the schoolhouse. You're non-engaged with what he's doing. So that's why I want to put that actual caveat to this. I'm done after that. I just want to throw that little layer on there just in case.
Well, let me first introduce, welcome to the fathers that just came in. Some of our wise statesmen of the Fatherhood Think Tank. I see wise statesman, brother E. Tinney, Ed Tinney, and brother Dr. Frank Gaines. Just introduce yourself, and the topic we're talking about tonight is absence. Is it his choice?
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Ed Tenney. I am a transitioning to single dad. I have 3 wonderful adult children, 1 grandbaby, and 1 on the way.
I am Frank Gaines, Dr. Frank Gaines. I am the father of 4 adult children, 35 to 44 years old. And my most important job is I'm a grandfather of 5. 1, 3, 7, 8, 16. And I have another one on the way, due in December. And I have no greater responsibility than that of being a grandfather. I didn't hear the topic clearly. Could you repeat that for me, Dr. Osborne?
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Brother Gaines?
I said, Dr. Osborne, could you repeat the topic for me? I didn't hear it clearly.
Oh, so the topic is absence isn't his choice.
Okay, I see it on the top.
And as we have just recently had this kind of conversation, we it's a general topic, but I think that it can touch to any father based on, as Vaughn was just presenting, is that it may not be by any hook or crook that his absence is there. It may be just by the circumstance of life, of the life of having to be a father who has to work for 12-hour shifts and being able to maintain a household and support a wife and do all of these things in the community, that at some point his absence from the children, even though he's not absent, his absence is not due to just his choice. It's due to circumstance. Then we, and all types of different absences that occur.
I'm glad you clarified that, because the topic by itself, absent isn't his choice. My knee-jerk reaction would be, it is. Now, once you clarified that and said it speaks to, you're really talking about the level, of absence. You're not saying absent means not there, okay, at all. And that's the way it came across me at first. But if you're saying, there are degrees to it, okay, yeah, I can understand that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but everything you do is a choice. Okay.
Well, I think that there's some dads who are there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're not there. As well as some dads who might, in their mind, want to be there. That
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine this. There are, there have been incidences where dads have been there, and I wish Rohan was here because he would speak a little bit about this. That when his divorce occurred, like, he wasn't there in the same capacity that he was before. But
right,
to your point, Rohan fought. He fought. I'll say he advocated more to be there because it was his partner's choice to go, not him. So it is it's one of those kind of and it really is based on how each father sees it for them and what they're going to bring to the conversation. Like, so for myself, let's speak directly about me, because let's use me. I think about, I process, I am mentally not absent from my daughter, right? But in circumstantial evidence, I am absent from it. Not from my wanting to be, not from even from the things I have done to try to initiate it, try to involve it. But she's not of an age to be able to take the stance to say, hey, I want to. Because even when recently she was able to do that, she wanted to, and then it was like, well, I got to ask my mom. And I said, well, yeah, well, let's ask her. And then the mom came up with a whole scenario of this, that, and the other. So then now it turned back into, and again, I say this because in this case of I know some people say, well, you could. I mean, I remember the first lawyer that I went to get. He told me just go to the house and get your kid because you don't. And I said, bro, I will not go to the house. I will not go to the house. I will not do any of those things because that will put me even farther away from my child. Because at that point of working in fatherhood this long, know that the mama say he came to my house unwarranted, unannounced. We want a restraining order. Now I got to fight a whole another scenario of trying to even be engaged. Luckily, at this point, me and my daughter can engage in our back channel ways that we engage.
Right.
She has the ability.
In the digital world. I mean,
Right.
I couldn't classify you as absent. You may not, or okay, perhaps, and I won't even say specifically to you, perhaps, a father who lives in another city.
Well, we talking about me. We talking
Right.
about me. We talking about me, brother. Dr. Gaines. We can use me because I think that is important for the audience, the people watching, to know that I'm not above what I also go through, and one of the reasons why I motivate for this every day to help other fathers to listen. I'm gonna give you a great example of this. There's a father that I helped when I couldn't help myself. He just won the custody of his. He won the primary custody of his child because of because of my failures, because of things I wasn't able to get done. I told him, "Hey, do this, man. Do this. Do this." He did all of them, and just like in the same cycle of men who have children with women that they're not married to, really don't have that kind of relationship with, you have to have your T's completely crossed, capitalized, and your I's not dotted, capital I's. Are you going to find yourself in a very shaky place because you don't have that kind of ground that you may have had with a partner or a woman that you was involved in a relationship where you had a relationship, you had something to build on, to pull back on, like, come on, Lucille, we better than that. Come on, let's do this for the kid. That doesn't happen in this case where it's just hot sex on the platter, maybe, and babies are being born. That's a different kind of a circumstance. So again, it comes back to you, and I said this all the time. You have to take the rule to do what and the guy was able to take these things and bam, and eventually was able, and it's not like a win, like he won, but he doesn't have to go through the headache of the things that was happening, of the mother taking the kid away from him, making him an absent father when he didn't want to be, and the pain and agony he was going through of that, because
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying that you see this very. I mean, when you're in that world, you can see that a lot, and and it's a difficult thing. Sometimes I know fathers who are married to their wives, and then all the time they be like, "Well, I don't know how to operate."
Right, and that's where that makes me perhaps my responses are coming from a different framework.
Right.
I'm a bit too idealistic about this, but my thought process, and I'm a thinker more than a feeler. I don't let emotions drive, my decisions. But what I think it's more important. I think more importantly than what happened to you, not you, but what happens to a person, I think more important is how you react to it. Because this is not a sprint. We're talking about a child, a relationship with a child, and a mother who at some point you had a relationship with. Not you, I'm speaking in general, because I don't want anybody to take this personal. That, again, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. How you react now is going to have some influence on how these things progress. And perhaps, you have to perhaps you got to build some capacity when you're on the short end to be able to get to the longer end. And that may mean making sacrifices. But, you know, when we're talking about, you know, dealing with these situations, yeah, maybe you're in the same city, maybe you're not. Okay. But we live in a digital world now where, you know, so much of our interaction is done that way. Even with us, we don't, I mean, how often do we hardly ever see each other, but still the relationship is solid, it's strong. And so, you know, we got to take advantage of those capacities, but we can't allow ourselves to stay back. And it's hard for me to subscribe to absence. You know, just the statement in and of itself, absent isn't his choice, because there are mechanisms for you to connect. And I don't see you as absent or ever having been absent, because that relationship, that bond was always there. You found a way, whether it be digital or otherwise, whether it's short vacation, small trip, whatever, you make sure you found a way to connect. And so I just I don't want anyone to sit back and accept, hey, you know, this is the way it is. I can't do this. And, you know, again, maybe that is what your is right now, but that's not. Again, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. You got to stay in that game. You got to build that capacity. And over the long term, if you do the right thing, I think the odds will increase in your favor. They're not going to always work out, but we're not going to accept excuses, because we're talking about something that is from us and of us.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, Dr. Gaines, because I think one of the things that needs to be identified in this conversation, even from the onset, is what is how do you define where or there, the father not being there. So I think that needs to be defined first, because what we may think from a personal perspective of there is not really the reality of what there really is. So I think that needs to be really defined first, and that's why I asked initially, is this conversation more of a introspective? Well, all of conversations are introspective from an introspective outlook, but sometimes we give ourselves a non-needed excuse. So
excuses.
Yeah, we give ourselves a non-needed excuse, both from but we'll give ourselves a non-needed excuse of being there, but we'll make other opportunities to be there. And that's why I brought up the connotation of man playing Little League football, you there every Saturday, but when man need to talk to the teacher, you ain't there. So how do we define there?
Yeah,
I
think I'm sorry.
Okay. No, sorry, Dr. Gaines. No, but remember I was telling you at the beginning, it's a big difference between being well, not a big difference, but I guess a finite difference between an absent father and an extracted father. I can tell you 3 facts that can extract the father out of the lives of his child, and I experienced all of them. One, a father is taken away because he is just simply a victim of homicide. That's one. Number 2, a father is incarcerated, so he's an extracted father. So a father who's murdered is an extracted father. A father who's incarcerated is an extracted father, because he's taken off the street by way of laws, a crime he may or may have not committed. An extracted father can also be a father who's under what I call extreme judicial duress. That's a good way to put that. And what I mean by that, he have a scorned woman for the mother of his child, who we seek we seek vengeance, not so much justice for her child, but vengeance. And I've seen that too. And so for the sake of him not being an extractive father times 2, because he's going to be extractive father, the fact that, again, remember, by law, if he don't establish custody of child custody, he's not going to have access to that child anyway. He got to have some type of court permission to have access to his child if he's not married. If he's married, it's almost automatic access, because marriage is a validated judicial type document. It's a validated document that
Right.
gives automatic access to his children. But ones who are not, ones who are disenfranchised fathers, by way of just social consummation, then those are the ones going to have to establish different things, go through those barriers, and become and earn their fatherhood or their rights to fatherhood as men. But again, there is a difference between being an absent father and an extracted father. And an
Right.
extracted father can end up being an absent father, sometimes at no fault of their own, particularly being killed by someone else, or being falsely incarcerated. So it's dynamics, different dynamics that I have to give credence to.
Yeah. And those are and there are things that we can't control, and I think it's important in those situations where we can't control. We have to understand that we can't let that create a bitterness in us and let that permeate, the access we have to being able to do other things. And you're absolutely right. There's nothing, when the court steps in, the court is the law. I mean, there's not much, but in those situations we have to accept. And I think in terms of the conversation we're having here tonight, I think we have, I think the way that I look at it is that we try and provide, and it's hard, I hate to use a phrase like generally applicable protocols or strategies or processes or methods, but not knowing who our audience is and what their specific situation is, and without having a individual conversation with them, then if we're trying to create a specific scenario to and it doesn't fit everybody. So I think that you have to, you're absolutely right, Brother Lightborn. There are extracted fathers, when it comes to the court, and the system. That's something that it's one of those bitter acceptances in life that we have to come to grips with. But you can't let that change you as a person. You may have other children. There may be other things that are taking place in your life that are going to suffer if you allow that to happen. So again, it goes back to, it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it. So when one door closes, even with something as tough as the door to be able to be with your child, okay? One thing we know about here's, and I can say this from the perspective from where I'm sitting, that child is going to grow up. That child is going to go, he's going to exceed the age of 18. You're going to live more of your life beyond that child's formative years than than you will with him or her during their formative years. So 0 to 18, that's an 18-year pocket. But once that kid hits 19 again, so what are you going to do then? You can still, if you have a child in your 20s or 30s, okay, that child, now you get the child's, 18 years old, you could probably go and live another, so maybe you're 40, 50 when that child comes of, hits 18. You got a lot more, you got life left. Okay. And the court's not involved then. It's what capacity have you built prior to that? If that's any consolation in those situations where you can't control what the law has done. All right. And again, I'm not speaking from my own experience, because again, I've 42 years of marriage. And that's purely my wife's fault. No credit to me. So, that's no feather in my cap. But like I say, I've been with my children their entire life. I'm still with them, raising them. They're 40-something years old. But I'm trying to get it right this time with my grandchildren. You and all you fathers out there who are struggling with your children, one thing I can say with certainty, boy, you're gonna be perfect with your grandchildren.
Go ahead, Teeny, jump in there.
I'm not even sure if I can actually relate. You know, in my second marriage, the one that I'm transitioning of, I took in a stepson, and I felt like I was the best thing for him at the time that I was there. But given my decision to part company from his mom, um, I was kind of taken aback at how I at the narrative that was created to make it seem as though I was a bad uh, father figure in his life. Um, but what gave me validation is, you know, even though the separation is somewhat contentious, the validation was from my biological children stepping up to basically have my back. And I look at that as validation that deep inside, I am a good father. I may not be a great one, but I'm at least a good one, enough to reap the benefits of um, the investment that I've made into my biological children. And I just kind of think it's unfortunate that um, my stepson's mom, chose to create a narrative that, um, I didn't want to be there, I didn't want him around, that type of thing. And I think she missed out on a great opportunity for me to continue, even though we are parting company. But I think she missed out on a great opportunity for me, as I would consider myself a successful dad, to benefit from whatever I had to offer in at least continuing that relationship, such that I would, have an opportunity to invest in his life and pour into him and show him, you know, from an experiential type of scenario. Hey, this is what I do. This is who I am. This is how I love. This is how I care. This is, how I bring about stuff. But it is what it is. When you're doing life, there may be an idealistic expectation of what you think, uh, or how you think it should go. And, uh, man, the world it acts differently, different from the idealistic perspective that I may be coming from. So um, that's my input.
Ed, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna say this from what I feel is based on my experience working in this arena. No matter what happens, I think the time that we spend with a child, our biological child or not, um, they remember that. They may not have control, and as I even think about my own experience, they may not have control to voice their feeling or be able to say what they are, what they're not, and how they like it or don't like it, because they're still governed by an adult as a child. But I don't think they ever forget, and I give you the reason why. Children never forget the bad things people do to them, right? We know this factually. We do not forget the bad things that people do to us. So, in the same instant, the same part of the brain that operates the bad things is also the same part that remembers the good things. In that, when this person was in my life, this is how it was. And you hear it all the time. I mean, I think we hear it all the time. Someone saying, when I was in this house, and when I was in this setting, I was at this level. I felt like this. It was good. It was great. Not that, and a lot of times we have to remember that that children are caught in this position to not be disrespectful, right? Especially to the person they perceive as the main caregiver, right? So if you're the main caregiver, they can spoke up or they can say this and say that. But when you're not, in the court proceedings, or even sometimes, I won't even say in the court, just in their nature of who is going to take care of them, right? Who's going to be that person to take care of? Because this is very unique. It becomes so unique. It's not as clean cut as people would like it to be. Because if a dad who take care of everybody and then the mom leaves the dad, the kids will acknowledge that. Sometimes they acknowledge that, no, we with mom, but we would rather be with dad because dad took care of us. Right now, we stand in the hotel. We was staying in the house. We had our Xbox, we had our kid. And it's just, they're weighing that. And then they also are weighing that they also know, depending on their age and depending on the knowledge of what they know about the relationship, what is going on. But they are also children. And they also have this seniority, this protocol that they can't step across without being disrespectful. And you would hope that they wouldn't be disrespectful in that way, because now that puts you in a place. But sometimes we do see they can be coerced into being disrespectful to you, right? It's a strange dynamic that we would not to talk about and say, oh, don't exist. But sometimes children can be coerced. Like I know this, and I only say this because we talk about it in the fields that I worked in, the domestic violence, and the fatherhood. We talk about, when we talk about the coerciveness of sexual abuse, all these kind of things that was done that people forced somebody to do. And we know it can happen. And it also can happen to a father. It can happen. These things can happen to where the child can be coerced to say, listen, let's talk about, I'm going to bring up an episode of Vanna Van Zet, the episode where the mother told the children that the father abused them. And they all became grown women later on in life. And they disliked their father because they had been coerced, I guess at some point brainwashed to believe that they never remembered it because the trauma must have been too much, that their father abused them. And then here it is, 10, 12 years later, they're grown and they're coming back to the Vanna Van Zet show to hear that their father did any of that to them. Their mom made the whole thing up. But the kids, didn't know. They just believed the main caregiver. And the main caregiver said this is what's best and this is what happened. Sometimes people will do that. So I bring that up to say, I know that it might seem at this moment like, hey, it's gone. But I believe that the energy that you pour into children always comes back.
It does.
Even if what I mean, Gaines.
Yeah.
Even if someone tries to poison the well, you can't change what they experienced.
And let me say this, and this is not my story. This is not about me, but you all know I was an educator. I'm still an educator, 30 plus years in the business. Having served in administrative roles, I have directly had influenced and touched over 10,000 kids directly. If I walk, if I pass in their presence, there's at least 10,000. They will know me. Hey, Mr. Gaines, Dr. Gaines. And one of the hardest things for us to do is look at, and I mentioned this last time, look at the world through somebody else's eyes. It's hard to do that. You can't do that because all you have is your own. And you will never know what impact you have had on, what on the people around you or the people you touch. Now, and I want you to really think about when we're talking about a child, your child, one that, you you've had the opportunity to be a part of their life, or they, you were in direct contact with them. I ain't talking about in a sea of 10,000 like I've dealt with, Mr. Tenney. You're talking about one child. And let me tell you something. That child, what he sees, that child's perspective. Now people can try and poison the well, as Ron talked about, but kids are smart. Okay, they understand. They have a sense about people that you can't that you can't that can't be dissuaded. Okay, once the child sets it in their mind, and it's going to be based on how you treat them, your attitude towards them, all those things that made you right for being in that situation with that child, you want that relationship to continue, and that child wanted it to continue. Listen, all those voices in his ear that are speaking against it, that child can discern from what's real and what's not. So, it's my belief, you can't control what other people are saying or doing, but you know that you've done what's right. You know what your impact has been. And that child, let me tell you something. I don't know how old the child was when they were a part of your life, but there will come a time and that child is going to put that in his head. And when that child sees you down, or maybe they will see you, maybe they won't, that child doesn't forget. And they're going to see you one day. Okay? Then you will know the truth about what it is you're talking about right now. Have no regrets about it. Okay? Have no regrets about it, because it's going to come to pass what is real and what isn't. So I don't let myself get caught up in what people who I know are putting things into the conversation that don't belong there, because you know who you are, I know who I am, that child knows who you are, okay, and you know who you are, okay, so you let it, you take it from there, because those things are going to come to pass. That child doesn't forget. It's going to come back. They'll seek. I would dare say that child will seek you out and let you know what their impact was. Because I get it all the time. I can't remember 100 names of them 10,000, but I see them all the time. And it was only fleeting moments that I had an opportunity. In some cases, you had a lot of time, so you had an impact. It's there, and it will come back to you. That goes for anybody.
I second that 100%, brother Gaines.
Well, that's the best part about it, Teeny, about time being the greatest equalizer, is because at some point we got to realize, and we're going to all recognize, when the vision don't match the voices, right? And so if you're going to make something bad, right, then you're going to have to prove yourself good. If my voice is trying to make something bad, right, and I'm saying my narrative is saying this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, then I'm going to have to, my vision will have to present something better. You understand? And time always rectify that. And so, yes, the voices may be saying you're bad. You understand? But you already have the vision of good already sown in this kid's life, or anybody's life for that matter. It doesn't even have to be a kid. It can be her herself. You understand? And that's where we get that the grass is not always greener narrative. You know that was birthed out of something. And so with that, people always, and that goes for every, I think that's just the mandatory adult experience. You have to find out, life will show you, and time will show you what is really good and what is really bad. And so once that time actually mature that situation and the person within itself, and then you may be on the other side of a narrative, in which I've had the experience of on both ends, where I had to correct a narrative I might have put out there, and I've also had narrative corrected about me that was put out there, and so but time had to actually correct all that stuff. And so with that, I'm saying whatever truth that you did live can never be a lie, and time will always bring it back to the truth.
Thank you,
I have
brother.
a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying thank you. Go ahead.
So so how do we as men who have gone through it or are about to go through it or hope we don't go through it, but when is that transition point? Even for those that are listening in, like what's that transition point where you have to, again, I'm always gonna be self-reflective. You know what I'm saying? If we can't always put blame on baby mama or whatever the case may be. We're grown men in some instances. Yes, circumstances happen in life, but like, do we just quit and don't try to, push through, or, you know, do you keep fighting and you make the best of the situations no matter what? Like, so what's that trigger point for that to occur?
Well,
You
Vaughn,
just
I think that oh, go ahead, like,
no. He just said it himself. I think he answered.
Right.
He had it within his within what you just your statement. You said we're grown men, but the truth of the matter, we're not grown men. We're growing men. And so I think that's misinterpretation and misnomer within itself, because nobody's grown man. It's like for you to be a grown man, it means that you are not going to grow no further than where you establish yourself as a grown man. You understand? We're always growing men, and I think sometimes we're capped. We put glass ceilings on ourselves with different stereotypes. And so when we change the narrative, you change the nation, you change the neighborhood, you change the now. And so that's where we start with that. Let's change the narrative and let them know that we're growing men, which will give you the right to grow. You know what I'm saying? But being a grown man is like saying I already peaked at my growth. And so that's one of the situations. The other situation is we have to practice something that we're not normally conditioned to practice in society. And that's the things that women are always conditioning themselves to practice. And that's, I would call them we would call them the girly traits, or we wouldn't even call them the girly characteristics, which is patience, forgiveness, kindness, different things that men are frowned upon, most times for actually practicing. And only men that really practice those type of things like patience and kind of different things like that are not so much weak men, but wise men. And so there's a lot of social conditionings and social construct that may stereotype us as weak men, but actually keep us away from being wise men. And that's one of the situations that I would answer that particular question.
But and I'm going to also offer that, and this is going to be a short response. There is no inflection point that we stop. That's we're men, okay, and part of our hard wiring, and if it's not there, we have to we got to build that capacity. We don't ever walk away, not when we're talking about our children. That's a lifetime responsibility, commitment, obligation. You use whatever word you want to. So there is no give up. There is no back off. Sometimes we have to take a step back to exercise patience so that we can move forward, and achieve what the desired result is. And that kind of applies with Mr. Tenney. No, it's never over. It's never over.
So I'm glad that came up as far as what Life Once said just a second ago. So I've been on this writing kick lately. I don't know what's going on, but this whole summer just been on this writing kick, and it might be coming out this week. But it's called The Shop. I went to a barbershop one recently, and we were just talking, and you know how barbershop talk goes. One thing, it went from laughing and joking and blah 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 to serious conversation. And we talked about we literally had a fatherhood conversation at the barbershop, right? And in that conversation, I made a statement saying, I think the problem is with men or fathers, whatever the case may be, a lot of times, specifically those fathers that have not necessarily had that male role model growing up, it's solidified in life, whatever the case may be, is that they're learning how to be a man while being a man. If y'all can catch my drift when it comes down to that. So they don't have the full. They're learning how to be the father. They're learning it while doing. And when you said that, that kind of triggered my mind. It was like, wow, it's you never stop learning how to be a father, learning how to be a man, no matter how old you are. And it just kind of triggered me to reflect on that in the conversation that we had. I mean, 4 different dudes from different walks of life, but that was the nucleus of the conversation. So I just want to drop that nugget in there real quick.
What
Fatherhood is an experiment. Fatherhood is an experiment.
Right.
Nobody has it.
But I think what makes it work is that as men, we can talk to other men, right? And we can, in many instances, when we build a relationship with other men, we can use our experiences to help them move forward. And I think that's a big, because sometimes some men are going to say, well, I'm going to see myself. I think I got it all worked out. I.e. myself, right? I already know. I'm already schooled on what I need to do. I know how I got this under control. I know the relationship I have with her. We like this, all of these things. And there were people who said to me, I did the things they did, but I'll say this, I didn't do it in the tenacity how they said I should do it, right? I did it in the laissez-faire way because I was thinking that, let me be kumbaya, because kumbaya will be the way to operate with the person. You have to do better to know who you're dealing with and how to deal with them. So it wasn't, I should have been a lot more assertive. I should have been a lot more strategic. I should have also been, when I had the opportunity, as I told this brother who got successful custody of his, not custody, but he got main parentship. He is the custodial parent. I should have been more savvy. I should have been more, I should have did that more instead of taking the stance of being stoic, right? Being stoic led me to be more looking at cold, or I was just like I couldn't do anything with them. And what really should have happened, I should have been, because initially from the beginning I was all like that. It was all, but it became a point where it was like I have to make a boundary here, and I should have reevaluated my boundary, what it looked like, and how it came across, and how it was perceived to the mother. Because if my boundary wouldn't have came off maybe the way it came off, maybe things would have been different. And I could have maybe, did whatever needed to happen. But I, again, as a man, we have ego, we have pride, we have arrogance. We also have knowledge that we do know things, right? I won't just say with the ego, pride, arrogance, all those things. We see them a lot of times as bad, but a lot of times that's what also makes the world grow, because we have those things. Because if I wasn't arrogant in some place, I could walk in a place and tell me, no, that can't happen. And guess what? I'll be probably still in shackles, right? If I didn't have pride, somebody could tell me, I don't like how you look. I don't like guys with funny looking hair and strange ears, and then I would say, let me just go and harbor in a little place and not ever exhort myself or do anything. You have to have some of that as a man. You can't cower, but sometimes we have to know how to manage those things. And sometimes it takes us to have other men who have that experience, as I like to do with all the fathers that once I come in contact with them, is give you my experience of what happened with me. And you don't have to be like me. You can be better and have a better relationship with your child's mother and your child if you follow, not our natural instinct. I think that's the point. Our natural instinct is to be one way, and next thing you know, we find ourselves in another situation that we can't really control. And then we go to our natural aggression mode, right? And then that puts us directly doing what's the thing? Monopoly, go straight to jail. When you do the Monopoly, you go straight to jail, because when you move from all that other strategic and go to aggression, you go straight to jail. Because, and again, people don't understand the aggression is because that father is upset. That father wants to be a father. The one thing that he probably wanted to do more than anything else in the world was to do what? Be a father. Even if it wasn't how he wanted to, but now someone is taking the control of how that happens, and you have to find a way to maneuver around it. And that takes to be able to listen to people, to be able to experience what they experience, and go through those kind of things. I didn't mean to sound like a preacher, but
no, you was on point. I think our selling points as fathers, and particularly our selling point in our promotion, the way we promote fatherhood, I think we probably do it poorly, because we project ourselves as you should need me, as opposed to you actually need me. And so I'm like, if you were selling yourself, or you selling fatherhood, I'm the father that you are, to the mother of your child or to your children, how would that look like? What would that look like? What would that commercial look like? And the fact of the matter is this: you have to. I think we sell ourselves so much on being responsible, we don't understand how to make our fatherhood resourceful to the other individual, right? And so, because if I know anything else, I'm like, listen, being a parent, and particularly being a full-time parent, you understand? This is where that tact come in at. That tact and what's the other word I use? Finesse. I already know some facts that it's hard to find a babysitter. It's hard to find reliable people, and most importantly, it's hard to find somebody that love your child just as much as you do. And so, if you want to go and have your girls' night out and don't have to worry about your child, holler at me. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, it's a tactful way to really walk. Listen, it's a tactful way to leave people alone. You understand? Just give them the facts. Drop the, you know what they're going to drop the mic facts. Here you go. Let me give you these 4 facts. Let me drop the mic, and then you go ahead and think about it. Leave you to yourself so you can go ahead and soak in that real quick. Let it marinate. And then when you understand that when that little girl trip coming and all the other stuff, and you can't find nobody, and you looking for people that not gonna give you attitude, or you may not have to pay, particularly you looking for the number one thing if you love your child, which is a safe environment for your child, holler at me. You understand? So because that's when being responsible turns into being resourceful. And so it's not the fact that I'm like, yes, you need me just as much as I need you. You understand? I think that, yes, a mother, of course, a child needs his mother. That's not hand down. That's not a competition. I think we fail at the companionship of who we are, whether we're together or we're separated. And that's where the problem most of the time comes in, is because it's a competition. And nobody really sees validates or value the companionship that still exists. Not that used to exist, because you think because you guys are breaking up, that stops the companionship. No, you're still the parents of that child. And the companionship will go on all the way to your grave, preferably. Not that child's grave, but because your parents should die before their child. So you said you got to be past that companionship by at least by the time graduation come up. Because the same competition that's going to show up at graduation is going to show up at matrimony. You understand? You guys are going to have to still share that same space one way or another. So it's best to fix that situation or y'all relationship at a micro level that exists the rest of your life, still trying to run into that trauma and crisis at a macro level.
So really quick, I think one thing, and I know I'm probably gonna get chewed out about this, but it is what it is. I got thick skin. I think sometimes is even when we're dealing with what could seem to be a negative experience with said significant other, said baby mama, said whatever the case may be, we as men, even if they're in that position of being demeaning, as fathers and as men, I think we don't need to bow down to that all the time. We get sometimes I think sometimes we get into this he-man woman haters club when it's not even necessary. And at the end of the day, on the flip side, they're gonna use said child to say, look, he said daddy can't, he hates me so much, so that means he gotta hate you, so I can't let you be in an environment like that when that's far from the case. So sometimes we gotta play, I won't say play fire with fire. Sometimes we gotta kind of peel back to show ourselves as being the stable-minded individual for said situations on certain, so that we won't be cast as a negative in the child's life, because at the end of the day, that's what we're there for. Even though we want to have an established relationship at some point with our significant other or past significant other, ultimately we need to be there for our children. So we can't play the same games that they try to play also, or get coerced in playing the same games.
But you're always in it as fathers, and this is one of the advantages we have, particularly as fathers, when it comes to a narrative in society. One thing I've learned about children, if I learned nothing else, and my children are full-fledged adults, from the youngest to the oldest, I learned that you can't compete. When it comes to a child, you can't compete against what's theirs. You understand? And so when you find out, I'm like, and trust me when I tell you, because I'm a stepfather too, I understand that no matter what service I render as a father to my children, they're not my biological, but I always consider, I always use the biological terms when I'm referring to them, but you can't compete against something that's not theirs, because we always saying, when the children not ours, but I'm like, you understand that mirror turns both ways, and we never see it that way, because you think when as an adult, you still have the power to say whether the child is mine or not, be a stepchild or whatever the case may be. But that mirror also, when you turn it around, it becomes just equally as hurtful when a child who will compare a man who does everything to them or everything for them up against a man that does nothing for them. That's the power of parenting and parenthood and being that child's parent. Because again, you can do everything for that child, but again, the fact that that child knows that this is my father, good, bad, or indifferent, it carries so much weight than the many contributions you may have given that child. And sometimes it's a very hurtful thing, be it quiet or not quiet. It's a very hurtful thing. But remember I told you vision versus voices. You have to sometimes give their children to access to what's theirs, so they can make a clear cut conscious of, you know what? Wow, you know what? This man is not my father, gave more than me than my actual father. But it doesn't give you the right to minimize another man as a father. The thing about the reason you gave to that child, and this is what I'm realizing as a stepfather, the reason a real village is given to that child, so that child can, guess what, give to that man, because that man may be even more broken than that child. And so the truth of the matter is, I'm not a better man because their father is a broken man. A broken man doesn't make me a better man. You understand? I don't live my life like that. And so if that child can advocate for that father, and particularly a broken father, you understand, who may have not had the capacity to be there then, but making the attempt to have the capacity to be there now, then I have a responsibility and accountability to make sure that man is rebuilt in some capacity of that relationship, if that child can build that man back up through the relationship, with each other, if that makes any sense. But I think sometimes we have to watch that pride thing, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm like this, I'm a human being, so I can be prideful. Like I I can go straight to the direct, like, man, you ain't never do nothing for that child, so you should be nothing to that child. But I don't have that right. You understand? Only God have that right. And everybody has the right to be redeemed at some point in their life. And if that child can be the redeeming point for that particular father, be it broken or not, then I don't have a right to actually stand in between that. And so that's just my perspective on it.
And that should permeate every aspect of what we do. Don't build your reputation on the back of another. Okay? I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dr. Gaines. When I was in my stepson's life, his biological dad, however active he was or inactive, I never, ever cast a disparaging word to him behind his back to his son ever. It was very important for me to make sure that he and his biological father continued to have a relationship as best that they could develop it, because all I knew from my perspective as a stepdad is that I could never cross the bound of that biological tie. And it would do me no favor or good to disparage that in an effort to, I don't know, uplift myself above anything that he was doing or not doing. So I think from that perspective, I don't know, the brotherhood of men, kind of kicks in, where, you're not 100% with your biological dad physically. You're with me as your stepdad, but at the same time, you got to give your dad respect. You got to give your dad his due, because he is your father. And I would even be willing to say, hey, listen, I'm your stepdad. I know I got certain respect levels that are due me as your stepdad, but dude, this is your biological dad. You need to make sure you carry on in a relationship. And I think that's where the brotherhood kind of kicks in. And I actually think that is a man-upable type of scenario where you're allowing, I don't know, call it grace, if you will, for them to establish that bond outside of the bond that you're trying to establish as a stepdad. So I appreciate that word, Dr. Gaines, because I think we as men at times may do ourselves a disservice in that, we may pile up on another man, unless,
There's no value in it.
Yeah.
As men, we got to live by a code.
Yeah. So I feel you.
So I would say this, with that being said, I think one of the problems, well, I won't say a problem, but I think one of the things that, because I was listening to what you were just saying, my good brother, and I think one of the things that we do is that we live up to a non-perceived title, right? Because so as I was listening to you, I kept hearing stepdad versus real dad, and why not just be dad or father, right? I think a lot of times when we have these, we put these warranted or unwarranted titles on ourselves, specifically when it's dealing with children and we know what we do, they take that connotation and then that's what they thrive with it. So that ain't my real daddy, that's my stepdad, rather than saying that's my dad. Now you have some people that some children that look past that, but the vast majority don't. So how do we remove those that unnecessary handcuff from us when we have put these titles of dad versus stepdad, or what he's supposed to do and what he's not supposed to do, rather than what we're supposed to do as men, as fathers in general.
I don't think we can
Let
get
me
caught up
jump in there real quick.
semantics.
I have no problems with those titles.
Right.
And the reason why I have no problems with that, from a biblical perspective, Joseph was Jesus's stepdad. God chose Joseph to raise his only begotten son. And I think there is a badge of honor, if you will, that if another man volunteers to raise another man's son, but yet at the same time acknowledges that he is not the biological, that doesn't diminish my fatherhoodness. Throwing that out. Because I say I'm a stepdad, I'm not diminishing my ability as a father, my ability as a dad, or anything like that. What I am doing is I'm acknowledging the fact that he has a biological father that is his father. He may not be active in the father role in the sense that the child is not living with him. The child is living with me. I'm actually proud to, be acknowledged as a stepdad who is willing, to step in and say, "Hey, listen, brother, I didn't birth this. It's not my seed, but listen, we're working together. We're gonna get this boy straight. We're gonna do this thing together. I'm not gonna diminish you. I don't expect you to diminish me. This is your role. This is my role, and we're gonna work with it." And so I don't have a problem with that title. I know there are a lot of people who say I should not be giving assent to the title as stepdad. For me, it's not a big thing.
I'm with
I
you.
still know who I am as a father.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%, because I will say that I wouldn't get caught up in the semantics as much as I would focus on the relationship.
Exactly.
And again, with that being said, it definitely wasn't from a place of, well, you need to be called this. I think that sometimes the world itself puts a spin where it shouldn't be, rather than just saying, "Hey, this is a father," or "He's my father." You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily one that birth, or that how can I say, so in so many words, pushed me out. But but like, I think that the world itself gives a negative description of what sometimes stepfathers really are, in comparison to what we would say is a biological father. So that's like, that's where I was coming from with that.
Let the world think what they will. That's just my attitude towards it, because my concern is not and that's just me. I'm not concerned with what people think, how they act, what they say, what they do. That affects them. Okay, focus on the relationship, what's real, what's tangible, what is tangible and intangible as relates to the relationship. Because the world is a cold, cruel place. Okay, we promote the negative more than we do the positive.
Well, that's the thing about it. If when we understand fatherhood and relationships, when you hear words like that, because there's certain words that defines us, right? Relationship, fatherhood, all those words only can mean one thing, two things. Well, no, one thing. Fatherhood relationships are both services, not statuses. And I think if for people who focus more on the status, and people who will focus on the status will fail at the service anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're too, and you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons anyway, because you're so focused on what it should look like, you're missing what it is.
Don't get sidetracked.
Right, exactly. And so those are distracted people who actually needs the status and the different titles, but the people who's in the service of it, those are what you call, those are the historians. Those are the people that history remembers after wealth has passed away, because your legacy is going to be left behind in people, not how many buildings you put your name on. You can remember so many. We can remember, and history records way more poor people than rich. That's unfortunate but true. You can't remember too many rich people, but like you, I'm like, well, why history and the legacy of history is plagued with more poor people than rich? And the Bible of course, has a lot to say about that. But your investment at the end of the day is in people, not material things. It's in the service, not status. And I think that's something that we, when we talk about being grown men versus growing men, that's something I think we're going to learn as growing men versus grown men. But I enjoy
that takes us right in. That takes us right into, as you said, like going, people who are investing in the Fatherhood Think Tank. That's Zeta Chi's Omega Psi Phi chapter of Fort Lauderdale. One of our key, longest sponsors of the Fatherhood Think Tank. Brother, a good JAG Law, attorney at law, Miami-Dade, Broward, and West Palm Beach County. JAG Law is a big supporter of the Fatherhood Think Tank. Johnny A. Gaspar Esquire. You can be reached at his email at Gaspar at jag1law.com, or his phone number 305-827-8087. If you need to go to his website, it's www.jag1law.com. So, and with those proud sponsors supporting us here at the Fatherhood Think Tank, I definitely, I'm sure you had if you listened to some of this, if you listen to it later, just hit the button, like, share, subscribe, so you can know when these meetings are happening, when we're having these conversations. Or you can just put it on your calendar, 7:00 Tuesday nights. I want to hear what Father's going to say, or maybe I want to come on and speak as a father of everything. This is not a private little club. This is open to any father. And we welcome fathers to come on and talk about the topics that we have. I even offer people to we have did this for years. Offer suggestions of topics that you may want to hear us have a conversation about, and look at the viewpoints of it. So we're here for that. With that being said, hey, I'll just ask the Father to repeat after me that I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I am.
I
I am.
I say I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I am
I am a man of respect.
Fathers, I'm going to tell you that I am.
I am.
I say that you are.
I said you are.
You are.
I say that we are.
We are.
We are.
Championship fathers. As every week that we do, and we have this affirmation to remind us as we go through our weeks that we are fathers who are fathers of honor, courage, and respect, and that we are championship fathers that put our kids on our arm and our families on our back. And we invite you to do the same thing and say this maybe to yourself in the mirror, just to remember what is our oath as a man and as a father to do, and try to do it the best of the possibility that we can. With that being said, we'll see you all again here next week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock at the Fatherhood Think Tank. Thanks all the fathers for participating, joining us tonight. The people in the audience, those out there. I know that we fell off on Facebook, on the Facebook accounts. I don't know. I have to check and see what happened. But YouTube is still strong and we're going. So we'll see y'all here next week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock, Fatherhood Think Tank. Thanks again, fathers. Good night.